I found a document with my signature on it. Except I never signed it. My own mother, the woman who gave birth to me, had just forged my name to chain me to $250,000 of my worthless brother's debt. When I confronted her, she looked me dead in the eyes and threatened to have me arrested. This is how I absolutely destroyed them both. They say blood is thicker than water, but in my family, blood was just another weapon they used to bleed me dry. I'm Elena, and for 5 brutal years, I was the invisible slave behind my mother's so-called prestigious design firm in Charleston. I designed every single home. I calculated every structural load. I destroyed my body working 80-hour weeks while my parasitic brother Julian played pretend influencer and burned through my money like it was confetti. I thought I was the foundation holding this sinking ship of a family together. I was wrong. I was the sacrifice they'd been sharpening their knives for all along. The fracture moment, visceral devastation. The moment my entire world shattered wasn't some dramatic explosion. It was the sound of a luxury fountain pen, probably worth more than my rent, scratching across paper in my mother's office. It was a Tuesday. I remember every agonizing detail because Tuesdays were my nightmare. The day I reconciled the firm's finances while Victoria pretended numbers didn't exist. I walked into her office to grab the checkbook, and that's when my heart stopped dead. A document, sitting there on her antique mahogany desk like a loaded gun. 3 signatures at the bottom. Victoria Castellanos, Julian Castellanos, and Elena Castellanos. My hands were trembling when I picked it up. Personal guarantor agreement, stamped across the top in cold, official letters. $250,000. SBA loan. For Julian's pathetic Coastal Lux Candle Company. My signature sat there. Perfect. Practiced. Forged. The notary stamp was dated 2 weeks ago. I was 300 miles away at a conference 2 weeks ago. Heartbeat sound, loud, erratic. Do you understand what this meant? My mother, the woman who is supposed to protect me, had just legally handcuffed me to a $250,000 bomb. When Julian's business inevitably imploded like every other delusional scheme he'd touched, I wouldn't just be broke. I'd be ruined. At 28 years old, I'd be filing for bankruptcy because my golden child brother wanted to sell overpriced candles to tourists who didn't want them. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't storm out. I took a photo of every single damning page with my shaking hands. Then I put that document back exactly where I found it, because I was about to become the architect of their complete annihilation. The daily grind, raw exploitation. Let me paint you a brutal picture of what my life looked like before I burned everything to the ground. Every single morning at 5 a.m., while Charleston's suffocating humidity hung in the air like a wet blanket and the sun hadn't even dared to rise, I was already chained to my desk. Not Victoria's pristine corner office. My desk. Shoved in the corner of a converted garage with broken ventilation and walls so thin I could hear my mother's morning phone calls where she stole credit for my blood, sweat, and sleepless nights. I wasn't just doing her work. I was hemorrhaging my life for her glory. But here's what she didn't know. Between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m., while she slept in her king-sized bed in her paid OFF mansion that MY Work financed, I was secretly coding structural designs for a firm in London. Desperate, exhausted, saving every penny to buy back my own existence. I was surviving on 4 hours of sleep and gas station coffee that tasted like broken dreams. My mother, Victoria, treated that office like her personal Broadway stage. She'd sweep in around noon, never earlier, always draped in designer linen because architects must look artistic, darling, and she'd parade my blueprints in front of clients like they were her masterpieces. Then, she'd pull me aside and tell me I looked haggard and needed better concealer to hide those dark circles. Those circles? Proof of the life she was stealing from me. Meanwhile, Julian, the golden child, the untouchable prince, lived like royalty built on my collapse. 26 years old. Never held a real job for more than 3 months. His resume? A graveyard of failures. A food truck that lost $15,000. A sustainable surfboard company that drowned in $22,000 of debt, and a crypto scheme that was definitely a Ponzi scam that vaporized $30,000 of Mom's money. But Victoria worshipped him, defended him, bankrolled every single catastrophic failure. He'd strut into the office at 2 p.m. wearing $300 sunglasses and reeking of yacht party cologne. He'd grab the company credit card, the one I paid off every month with my midnight London money, and disappear to the marina for networking. Networking meant getting drunk with other trust fund failures and posting Instagram stories about the grind and manifesting abundance while I actually ground myself into dust. I was grinding. He was manifesting my bank account into his playground. The moment I should have run, before I even discovered the forged loan, came during the annual Founders Gala. This black-tie nightmare where Charleston's elite pretend to worship innovation while choking down $40 martinis. Victoria had been obsessed with being the keynote speaker, campaigning for months like it was an election. She won. I stood in the back of that ballroom, wearing a consignment shop dress while surrounded by women dripping in diamonds, watching my mother bask in stolen glory under crystal chandeliers. She held champagne in one hand and the microphone in the other, like a weapon. "Tonight," she announced, her voice echoing off the vaulted ceilings like a declaration of war, "I'm thrilled to share that Castellanos Design Group is launching a global expansion initiative. We're opening satellite offices in Miami, Austin, and New York within 18 months. The room erupted in applause. My stomach dropped into a black hole. She continued, and every word was a knife. "This expansion represents more than business growth. It's a family legacy. My late husband built this firm on the belief that great design changes lives. To honor his memory, the family has unanimously decided to invest our personal assets, including our beloved island, as collateral. That cabin wasn't our beloved anything. It was mine. My father's will, black and white, legally binding, stated, the property at 428 Palmetto Road is bequeathed solely to my daughter, Elena Marie Castellanos. I'd turned 25 3 years ago. Victoria blocked the title transfer, crying about estate tax complications that mysteriously never got resolved. I believed her because I was exhausted and naive and still foolishly thought my mother had a soul. That cabin was my sanctuary, the only place my father left specifically for me, where he taught me to draft by hand on the porch while ocean winds scattered our pencils, where he whispered that I'd be a better architect than he ever was. And this woman, my own mother, was gambling it away on Julian's delusional candle fantasy. I cornered her in the kitchen after her performance. The catering staff scattered when they saw the rage on my face.
"Mom,
"We need to talk about the cabin."
now."
She didn't even look at me, just topped off her champagne like I was invisible. "Don't start, Elena. Dad left that to me. Not the business. Not Julian. To me." She finally turned. Her eyes were dead. "Don't be selfish, Elena. Julian needs this win for his mental health. He's been struggling. You have a stable job. You have income. He has a vision, and he needs his family's support to make it real. A candle company isn't a vision, Mom. It's a hobby for rich kids. You don't understand entrepreneurship because you've never had the courage to take risks. You just sit in that pathetic garage and draw lines on paper. Julian is building something." I should have walked out, should have called a lawyer that instant, but I didn't, because some broken part of me still believed I could fix this. Still believed that if I sacrificed more, worked harder, bled deeper, she'd finally see me. Spoiler: narcissists don't see you. They see what you can give them before you collapse. The theft, devastating violation. I made a plan to escape. Started applying to firms in New York, Boston, anywhere that wasn't this toxic wasteland. I'd leave quietly, let them destroy themselves, and just vanish. They moved faster. 2 days after the gala, I remember it was Thursday because I just deposited my London paycheck, my lifeline. My bank called. "Ms. Castellanos? This is Marcus from Fraud Prevention. We've flagged a suspicious transfer from your savings account. Did you authorize a wire for $40,000 to Summit Marketing Solutions?"
$40,000.
9 months of coding until 2 a.m. 9 months of choosing sleep deprivation over food. 9 months of building my escape fund.
Gone.
No, I choked out. I didn't authorize anything. Marcus walked me through the devastating details. The transfer was initiated using my online banking from my laptop's IP address. While I was at the firm, Julian found my password. I'd made it Dad's birthday because I'm sentimental and stupid. Of course, Julian knew it. He didn't take a few hundred for another failed venture. He took everything, my entire future, and Summit Marketing Solutions. A quick Google search revealed it was a shell company registered to a payday loan shop in a North Charleston strip mall. Julian was using MY money I'd bled for, to pay off gambling debts. I didn't scream. I didn't drive to the marina and throw his $300 sunglasses into the harbor, though God knows I fantasized about it. I went to the one person who knew where all the bodies were buried, Mrs. Gable. Dorothy Gable, 68 years old. Sensible cardigans. Hard candies in her desk. Filing system so meticulous it could survive nuclear war. My father's office manager for 30 years. And Victoria had spent 5 years treating her like unpaid help, forcing her to pick up dry cleaning, fetch coffee, organize Victoria's personal closet. Mrs. Gable smiled through every humiliation and documented everything. I texted her, "Can we talk?" Not at the office. She replied in 30 seconds, "Audrey's Diner. Route 17. Tomorrow, 7 a.m. I arrived at 6:45, desperate and shaking. She was already there. 2 coffees on the table. And a weathered black leather ledger sitting between the sugar packets, like a bomb. She slid it across the table with steady hands. "Your father didn't trust Victoria's spending," she said quietly, eyes scanning the diner like we were in a spy thriller. He knew Julian was a black hole. He knew Victoria would bleed the business dry if given the chance. I opened the ledger with trembling fingers. Inside, photocopies of documents I'd never seen. Bank statements revealing Victoria's personal credit card debt, $180,000. Loan applications my father denied, all for Julian's doomed ventures. Handwritten notes in Dad's blocky script. Do not co-sign for Julian. Do not liquidate real estate for V's expansion delusions. Protect Elena. And then, on the last page, a highlighted section of my father's original will that made my heart stop. Mrs. Gable tapped it with one perfectly manicured nail. Read paragraph 7. Out loud. In the event that Victoria Castellanos attempts to liquidate, encumber, or utilize any real property bequeathed to Elena Marie Castellanos as collateral for business investments or personal debt, full controlling interest, 51% voting shares, of Castellanos Design Group shall immediately and irrevocably transfer to Elena Marie Castellanos, with Dorothy Gable serving as executor. I looked up. Mrs. Gable was smiling. He didn't just leave you a cabin, Elena. He left you the nuclear option, the firm, everything. And she's been violating the clause for 3 years. The war chest, calculated destruction. I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. I sat in my garage apartment surrounded by 3 laptops, that ledger, and a legal pad, building my arsenal. I didn't pack a suitcase. I packed a destruction file. Over the next 48 brutal hours, I downloaded every email proving I did all the design work, backed up every forged invoice where Victoria billed clients for her genius, photographed every structural error she'd ignored because fixing them would delay projects and cost money, compiled every unauthorized transfer Julian made from company accounts, saved every text where Victoria told me to just handle it. When clients complained about her mistakes, pulled the permits for the Miami expansion. Spoiler. She never filed them. Just announced it for Social Cloud. I created a digital folder. Named it Foundation. Perfect. Then I accepted the job offer from New York I'd been sitting on. Senior structural designer. $95,000 salary. My office. My projects. My name on every blueprint. That Friday, I walked into Victoria's office. Not the garage. Her actual office with the antique desk and harbor view she didn't deserve. And I dropped a printed letter on her desk. She was on the phone with a client, laughing about something. She held up one finger. Wait, peasant. I didn't wait. I put the letter down and turned to leave. She hung up fast. What's this? My resignation. Effective immediately. Victoria laughed. Not nervous. Not uncomfortable. A full, mocking, condescending laugh that said, You stupid, stupid child. Elena, you can't resign. You're legally chained to this firm. Remember that loan? The one for Julian's business? You're a personal guarantor, darling. If you leave, I'll report you for breach of contract and file criminal charges for embezzlement. Embezzlement. You've been taking side work with that London firm, using company resources. That's theft. My resources. My laptop. My software licenses I paid for. But sure. I pulled out my phone, opened the photo of the forged loan, held it up to her face. You mean this loan? The one with my forged signature? The one where I was 300 miles away when it was notarized. Her face changed. Just for a flash, fear, maybe rage, maybe the realization she'd underestimated me. You're being dramatic. That's a family investment. I acted in the family's best interest. Call the police then, I said.
Do it.
Report me for embezzlement. I will. Wait, he didn't call. Too much of a coward. I did. Mrs. Gable and I walked into the Charleston Police Department's Economic Crimes Unit at 8 a.m. sharp, while Victoria was at Pilates and Julian was still passed out in his downtown loft. We came armed with a ledger, my bank statements, the forged loan, and a flash drive containing every piece of damning evidence. Detective Sarah Brennan, mid-40s, sharp eyes, no patience for BS, listened to every word, took detailed notes, asked piercing questions. Then she leaned forward. Ms. Castellanos, do you want to press charges? Absolutely. Victoria called me 17 times that day. I let every single call go to voicemail. Julian texted, WTF did you do? Mom's losing it.
I didn't respond.
I was too busy watching them burn. At 4:47 p.m., unknown number. I let it hit voicemail. Ms. Castellanos, Detective Brennan. We've executed a search warrant at Castellanos Design Group and your mother's residence. Need you at the station for additional testimony. Also, your brother attempted to FLE the premises. He's in custody. I drove to the firm in silence. 2 police cars. Lights flashing. The receptionist was sobbing. Mrs. Gable stood by her desk, serene as a goddess, holding a box of files like trophies.
She saw me.
Nodded once. That nod said, It's done. They're finished. Victoria was in her office with Detective Brennan. When I walked past the glass, she looked at me. Not with anger, with disbelief. Like she genuinely couldn't comprehend that quiet, obedient, haggard Elena had just detonated her entire existence. Detective Brennan stepped out. We found additional evidence. Wire fraud. Financial exploitation. That Summit Marketing your brother sent your money to? Connected to an illegal bookmaking operation in North Carolina. He's been gambling for 3 years. Your mother's been covering his debts with company funds. We also found forged client signatures on change orders to inflate billing. The Miami expansion?
Fake.
She's been collecting consultation deposits for a business location that doesn't legally exist. How much? My voice was hollow. Preliminary estimate? Over $600,000 in fraud. Between the forged loan, your stolen $40,000 client billing schemes, embezzlement to cover Julian's gambling. This is federal now. The fallout was biblical. The kind of spectacular implosion that makes headlines and gets whispered about for years. Victoria. Arrested. Charged with wire fraud, forgery, financial exploitation to contractor's license revoked. Forced to sell her precious mansion to pay restitution to the clients she scammed. The global expansion? Exposed as total fiction. No Miami office. No Austin office. Just PowerPoint slides and lies. She's currently rotting in a Mount Pleasant condo, working as a design consultant for a kitchen remodeling company. We haven't spoken in 2 years. I sleep perfectly. Julian pled guilty to wire fraud and theft. 6 months in jail, 2 years community service. Coastal Lux Candle Company never shipped a single product. Shocker. Instagram went from 47,000 followers to 3,200, mostly bots watching the wreckage, last I heard. Working at a vape shop. Living in a studio with a roommate who steals his food. He LinkedIn messaged me last month asking if my firm was hiring. I left it on red. Forever. The firm. The trigger clause activated. I took controlling ownership. I didn't keep it. Didn't want it. It was poisoned. I liquidated Castellanos Design Group. Sold the name, client list, intellectual property to a competitor for $1.20 million. Paid every honest contractor Victoria had cheated. Gave Mrs. Gable a $50,000 severance and a recommendation letter that got her a job where she's treated like royalty. Used the rest to establish the Richard Castellanos Memorial Scholarship for Women in Architecture. Full ride, no strings, named after my father, who actually believed in me. I'm writing this from my office in Manhattan. 34th floor. Windows facing the Hudson River. On clear days, I can see the Statue of Liberty, a reminder that freedom is real. The coffee's $7 for a latte, which still feels insane. The air is cold even in summer. My rent costs more than Victoria's old mortgage. But for the first time in my entire life, the blueprints on my desk have only one name, mine. I won't lie, I think about them sometimes. Wonder if Victoria ever looks at the work she stole and realizes she's forgotten how to actually draft. Wonder if Julian ever thinks about that $40,000 and feels even a flicker of guilt. Probably not. Narcissists don't have that capacity. But here's what I know. I'm not the pillar anymore. I'm not the ghost. I'm not the sacrifice. I'm the architect. And I built something extraordinary without them. If you've ever been the one destroying yourself to hold a toxic family together, this is your sign. You don't owe them your light just because they chose darkness. You don't owe them your future because they wasted theirs. You aren't the pillar. You're the architect. And you can always build something better. Smash that like button if you think Julian and Victoria got exactly what they deserved. Subscribe for more stories of justice, survival, and people who chose themselves. Tell me in the comments, what would you have done with that black ledger? Police? Confrontation? Disappear? I'm reading every single comment. Thanks for listening to my story. Remember, the best revenge isn't getting even. It's building a life so powerful they can't even recognize you anymore.